Now, the Horn of Africa is being hard hit by hunger and drought. Thousands of people are continuing to seek refuge in neighboring countries, while others are dying on the high seas of the Mediterranean as they pursue a better life in Europe. I spoke to Professor Abdi Samatar of the University of Minnesota via Skype and asked him why a country like Botswana, which is drought-borne, has not experienced hunger or mass migration like the countries in the Horn and East Africa, and what these countries can learn from Botswana.
I think the first thing, Esther, to note is that the problem of famine is not because nature has failed to deliver rain for the population, but it's a political and governance failure on the part of the regimes in the Horn of Africa and East Africa in large measure. So when the rains fail in Botswana, for instance, they immediately put systems into place so that the farmers and the herders are protected from that by buying their stock and then giving them hard cash at good prices so that they can restock when the drought's over. So that's the kind of a system that does not exist in Kenya or exist in Somalia or Ethiopia or in South Sudan.
Now, Professor Samatar, we know that these drought seasons are predictable. What is the immediate thing that they can do to at least save people's lives?
I think there are two issues here, Esther. One is the long term and the short term. The short term is the immediate stuff. There, in my opinion, rather than international community putting emphasis on the war and terror and all of that stuff, I think the United Nations, the international community, with the leadership of the United States, should make that absolute priority over everything else, getting food and water and medicine into those places. If that means dropping it from the air, that's the way to do it.
Now, Professor, you mentioned the international community. You also mentioned the United States. And indeed, what we see now is the United States and the international community sending food aid to those countries. What are the African countries doing to help their lot? And also, what is the role of the African Union in a crisis like this?
In my opinion, the African Union doesn't have the resources or dignity to be able to stand up tall on this matter. I think if the populations don't put political pressure on Kenyatta, on Mr. Farmajo, on the Prime Minister of Ethiopia and others, who are investing heavily in weapons and military machines rather than in resources to enable people to build stock so that when the rainy season fails, they can take care of themselves.
How should the continent respond to the migration problem? Literally thousands of people dying across the Mediterranean trying to reach Europe.
The first priority in every country is job creation, particularly for young people. If Kenya is able to produce 1 million jobs a year for young people, if they are able to do that in the Sudan or in Ethiopia or in Eritrea, much of this will not happen. And again, the case of Botswana is a clear example. Here is a success case who have managed the economy very well and which have therefore enabled its people and its young educated people, rather than leave the country, actually come back to the country and have a decent livelihood with a great deal of dignity in serving their own populations.